Croeso Sianel Blaid Llwyd. It's time to check into the Minotaur Hotel again. And if you've been following the series, you know something rather important to our main characters happened last time. So it's time to see where things go from there. A velvety silence blankets the hotel's hallways, interrupted only by the sweet-sounding song of hooves. Their beat is long and lazy, like the gentle back and forth and back again of foamy waves kissing sandy beaches. But each note is interspersed with the flicking of the ears, a swaying of the tail, full lungfuls of air drawn in and out, and some lingering grumbles of memory. The darling lumbers through these familiar passages, but how odd it all feels. His surroundings seem somehow smaller and cramped, although it may only be his step-wide back splayed out in all glory. Through gritted teeth he mutters words he cannot appreciate. What have I done? An hour or so, long enough for the rosy half-light from the windows to fade into satin dusk, has passed since he has last seen his master, his partner, his Leo. The lordly man had left their secret home in the hotel's heart, wishing to ensure that preparations for that night's celebration were on track. He wanted everything to be perfect for their announcement, the truth of their co-ownership branded over the ancient falsehood of servitude with their festive rite. All for the Minotaur, for Leo's best friend, for his. Oh, how the sweet burning fire consumed Asterion's very being at the thought. However, when he'd been invited along, to check in with the friends they'd employed and the guests they'd welcomed, and to make sure all would be as it should, Asterion had demurred. Again the hummingbirds had played across the back of his neck, tugging upon each strand of fur. Again the tremors had shaken him to his core. Again he'd needed time to think and ruminate, and allow himself to. With that same tender gentleness which then locked and cast aside the captive prince's chains, Leo had given him that time, gracious and generous. He would take care of things. When Asterion was ready, all the darling would need to do was come down and join them. And so Asterion wanders the hotel's hallways away from the commotion, thinking, ruminating, allowing himself to dream of what might come next. As I kissed Agathon, my soul swelled to my lips, where it hangs, pitiful, hoping to leap across. I never thought that I would. How soft his manoeuvring left and right, up and down stairs, in and out. His legs feel fresh and just so right, as if the idea they could end in anything but hooves is unthinkable. His eyes, darting from marble floor to open doors, feel quicker and wiser. Colours so dear burst from his memories, the lilac of dawn, the fields covered in crimson poppies and saffron, his father's purple robes fluttering in the wind as Asterion drew the bow's string. The air cold and crisp on his wet nose, hooves half sunk into the loamy soil, the feathered arrow caressed between his right index and middle fingers as they bore the string's tension. His hands so unlike the rude things they are today, riddled with knotted knuckles and dried tendons, tearing apart at the seams. He had a semblance of grace, once. The prince nurses these memories, but cannot stop himself from asking, what have I done? Those words, however, come in a voice both well-known and unfamiliar. Well-known, its grave ringing has been heard before, the syllables themselves feeling as though rolled out of his own mouth. But unfamiliar. They are dulled, drowned out, or perhaps a numbness has taken over his senses. What have I done? He stops. With eyes wide open he touches that shame, so disciplined and dedicated to never allowing him a moment of mercy. All good men have this thing. It seldom goes silent. No sacrifice or trial is great enough to shut it out. If it cannot be silenced, however, in this moment of clarity Asterion realizes one might as well deafen himself to it. Let it speak to itself, and only to itself, and so the prince chooses to give himself mercy. He breathes in, choosing freedom. But disgrace strikes. His meditation is interrupted by foul technology ringing, clamouring from within his pocket. It's a message from his friend, the evangelist who's been messaging him for weeks now, Dominikos. In half a dozen hurried, sloppy messages, Dominikos tells a horrid tale. His father has kicked him out of the house, and he needs a place to stay. Would Asterion just happen to know of a place where he could crash for a few days? The merciful prince does not hesitate and responds, "Yes, I work in a hotel. You can come here." Then he sends a series of directions so convoluted that anyone who follows them will end up impossibly lost. Dominikos asks if Asterion can wait out front for him, so he'll know it's the place. The Minotaur agrees. Why not? He could meet this friend, then bring him directly to the ceremony, as if it were a welcome party for Dominikos alone. Furthermore, he could use some fresh air and breathing room to dream. Without a second thought, he goes outside. This is it, boy. The dreaded moment you've been waiting for. His little hands curled around the steering wheel, teary-eyed, chest boiling over. And the faithful companion, his mind riddled with all sorts of questions about fathers, and a terrible sinking feeling that something is wrong all the way down to the depths of this world. Wrong on each and every layer of rock and earth, except for maybe an inch-thin slice of rightfulness there at the surface. The peacock unlocks the car's doors, but neither he nor his charge move. Minotaur swallows the knot in his throat and ponders the value of his own words. The shame and cringe of bearing one's heart, what benefit it may bring to another. His father had always been scarce with praise and affection. Hadn't that left a gap within him? So this time he chooses to speak. "I couldn't have done this without you. Thanks, Oscar." "You're welcome, boss. I'm glad I could earn my keep." The Panoptis squeezes the charm. He cannot imagine how the boy did it, but it must have been the charm. Somehow it opened the way to the hotel. "When we first met, I sure as hell didn't count you delve into rites. I gotta say, you're a fine pupil. If it'll stunt your pulse any indication, I'll make a great occultist." "It means anything. As your mentor, I'm proud of you. As your boss, count me impressed." "Well, thanks, boss." "Thanks, boss. Hearing this stuff coming from you means a lot." "Yeah, right. I'm stingy like that, so you know I mean it." "So, I know you don't like flashy shit, but I saw some cool-looking rites in that spellbook of yours. Yeah, I think you could..." Hell, you earned it. Sure, I'll teach you a trick or two. Now, you ready?" "Always was." They open the doors and light leaks out in the endless night. The shadows cross the parking lot, striding with a pride as great as the tragedy which awaits them. Asterion, meanwhile, waits for Dominikos in front of the hotel, surrounded by the labyrinth's infinite realm. His mind is taken up by contemplation about time, change, and his place in this world. Even the desert, his captor, for now is broken up into a nightscape of harmless near beauty. Sat in darkness far above, a horizon sliced by the jagged mountains into starlit lapis lazuli, and a wind which howls like a meandering song. His mind is clear and perfect, like seawater cupped in one's hands. Every crease of the palm, half-healed scar, and grain of sand is made fresh as a newborn's first sight. The prince hugs himself, every unruly calf trotting wild in his chest. He checks their hooves for wounds, teeth for rot, fur for naked patches. Each fear has a name and temperament of its own, and a song which soothes it and it alone. Does he fear? By the 12, yes. But what bravery and wisdom is in this prince tonight, as every flash of trauma is gathered down to its resting place. Asterion, judgment and acquittal, mute and of many words, pacified and spangled-minded, who is heard in gentleness and learnt from in roughness, abandoned and dearly beloved. He knows it, good lord, and if fear threatens to take him, a breath of humanity fills his chest and emboldens him. He breathes in and looks up to the stars. And there, up above, do his eyes deceive him? A white vulture, just like when he was young. He hears footsteps filled with such trained grace and purpose as they make their way into the hotel. When the prince looks to the door, he only catches a glimpse of what seem to be feathers making their way in. He rises to follow, to act as both witness and welcoming host, but another sound from behind transfixes him. Like the ringing of one's voice returning echoes from the depths of the old hotel, like another man's heartbeat compared to one's own. So familiar, and yet irrevocably strange, the off-tempo melody of hooves dancing to a lopsided rhythm. From the slit in the star-spangled horizon he comes, the drop of blood. Their eyes meet each other's horns, bullish noses, sweet-sounding hooves. The two draw their breaths. Between them there is only the silence and inadequacy, as if they stood by an elder on their deathbed. That shame of being present during another's final moment. Nothing one may do can ever be enough, and one's limbs always feel wrong and misplaced. All thoughts are shameful. No one is ever adequate in moments like this. Oscar takes a step forward. His hands yearn to reach out, but he keeps them locked into fists at his sides. As for Asterion, 1,000 fears and doubts he conquered today, but at a glance this one is too much. So they're left there, transfixed. At least they can admire each other's horns. And is that a warmth growing within their chests? The boy musters his courage first. Hi. But as soon as the word leaves his lips, he already regrets it. What a mediocre introduction. Someone like all the times he dreamed of this moment. He tries again, this time with a dash of pomp. Greetings, sir. The prince hugs a lie that isn't there. The boy takes a step back. The two draw their breaths. Hello. Unlike Oscar, Asterion has no use for pomp, and what thoughts run wild in his mind were quiet when he catches the faint scent of seaweed and salt water coming from the young man. Memories burst forth, of sea foam clinging to his hooves, much like he did his oldest brother's hand, with Androgeos carrying a basket of seashells in the other. At last, that does it. Asterion forgets his own imprisonment and all the evil laid upon him. He holds his dignity once more, and with it comes the sweet-sounding voice of a prince. Well, if my vision does not deceive me, then what a blessed night I have been given. In all my years never have I seen another like me. A warmth takes over Oscar's cheeks, and his limbs, those rebellious things, feel right as rain. I could say the same, sir. The longest time I didn't believe it had happened, either. I'm sure as I dreamed of it. Say, is this place some sort of hotel? Correct. And it is called... Well, forgive me if it is silly or tacky, but we are calling it Minotaur Hotel as of tonight. My name is Asterion, and before you say another word, it would be an honour and privilege to have you staying with us. That's mighty kind of you, sir. Kind of by far what I expect of anyone, really. But I'm afraid I don't. Asterion smiles, almost laughs as the boy meanders down that avenue. I'm not one to have the joy of meeting someone like me, so please, forget money. How fitting it is that tonight of all nights you arrive. I can only believe a god must have guided you here as a blessing. A godless life the boy has led. Tonight, however, he believes. Nancy, you're way too kind, but you ain't even got my name. I feel so ashamed. Well, my father always told me it is rude to ask a guest questions while they've been given the warmth of the hearth, a fitting meal, and an invigorating bath. Better introduce myself then. I'm Oscar, and I come from the hinterlands, just a bit further to the west. Speaking of which, I feel so silly. A friend and I spent so much time looking for this place back there. We never imagined it'd be by the coast. Asterion laughs, as rough and hearty as the waves crashing against the shore, brim with secrets and joy alike. Well, you could say this hotel is found wherever it is needed, and not so much when it is looked for. It is a home for those who are lost, and by old magic they will find their way here. If you are in need of shelter, Oscar, then it is my hope our hotel will be a kind and lovely home for you. Thank you. I don't think I'm lost, not anymore. There's a friend of mine who's needing it. Pedro, he's the one who got me searching for this place. Oh, where is he? I must welcome him. First as this hotel's host, and second in gratitude for bringing you here. I was in a real hurry. When I saw you here, I asked him to give me a minute or two, so he went on ahead. I wanted to talk with you, if I'm being honest. In this regard, I can certainly understand you. As the chance to meet another one of my kind has never presented itself, I too would like as many minutes of your time as you can spare. Hummingbirds peck the back of Oscar's neck, but tonight the sensation is not unwelcome. I was hoping there'd be a whole town of people like us here, but even one feels like a miracle. My buddy studies magic, you see, and he told me he never heard of people like us. For years, I thought I was the only one. Their smiles linger, shy and insignificant in this unending desert. Their expressions turn lucid as each one examines the implications of the other's genealogy. You didn't know your parents, sir? It stops his breath, a pang within Asterion's chest, sharp as any knife or spearhead, as he ponders what this man must have gone through if that is his first assumption. It would be easiest to tell the usual fake story, that he was born and raised in a hotel by a family of Minotaurs long gone. That lie always held an allure he couldn't resist. But he cannot, not to this man. I knew my parents, but they were not, like me. I grew up surrounded by humans. And sir, sorry, but if they were humans, then how'd you... Asterion's mouth goes dry. Oscar's teary eyes had washed away any thought of lying to him, but neither could he tell the whole truth. Even without knowing much about this boy's past, what little he is shown, the prince already fears it would destroy him. It was because of a curse thrown on my mother due to something my father did. That's how I came to be the way I am. What about you? Did you know your family? I know my mom, but never met my dad. She didn't want to tell me much about what he's like, but she always swore he wasn't some beast. I see. Well, that is good. Yeah, and my friend and I have been looking for this place for so long. Even now I'm having a hard time believing we found it, though we found you. You were looking for me? Yes, for weeks now. The longest time I thought, another Minotaur, right? I thought you'd have to be just like the legend, living in labyrinths and eating people. But I just showed up when you told me to come right in. Didn't even think twice about it. I can count on one hand the number of people who treated me decently. You know that? I didn't know what to expect, but I'm glad, you know. The hopeful lit in the boy's voice and the glimmer in his eyes. It sends ice-cold sweat pouring down Asterian's back as a fist clenches around his heart. The young bull has become at once more elated and more nervous with each passing exchange with who he has found, who he thinks he has finally found. Oscar shifts from hoof to hoof, caught between surging forward and pulling back, caught between voicing the thoughts that gallop within his mind and allowing the silence to grow stagnant. A half or quarter syllable crawls up his throat more than a handful of times before he can seal his nerves. You my dad? My mom's called Valeria. Dark hair, brown eyes, copper skin. She's from the hinterlands, round Tapir. Where I was born, she used to work at an inn. It's the town's biggest. She used to be beautiful. She's about 1.5 meters tall. Back then, she kept her hair in a bun. Worked as a maid, and during the weekend, she'd sing to the guests. She was beautiful and could make anyone laugh. And sometimes she'd cook fish from the north when her dad came by. My grandpa was a fisherman. She had a comb made from a tortoise's shell, and she made a dress from seashells that her mom got her. She wore it when she sang to the guests. Larry is her name, but back then people used to call her Val. And she was kind and sweet and... Does any of that? I'm sorry. I've never been to... around Tapir. I am not able to leave this place, Oscar. It has been a long time since I've been outside of here. And maybe he came here. I'm 21 years old, so maybe... The hotel and all its surrounding lands have been abandoned for many decades. It was only just recently that people from outside started appearing again. I've been living alone here for all that time. No one else has been here for far longer than 21 years. The glimmer dies, snuffed out like a candle's flame, and the lilt has dropped from the boy's voice, leaving it bleak as the desert around them. Oh, I'm sorry. What apology, what regret, what redress can be adequate for dashing a young man's hopes? Your mother sounds like a very nice person. Told she used to be. But she changed. Don't get along too well with her or with any of the people from my hometown either. Until a few weeks ago I didn't even know about charms. It was my friend, the one I came here with, who made one for me. My whole life before then, everyone's treated me like some kind of monster. God damn it. I don't know what I was expecting. Damn it, damn it, damn it! Those horns and bovine features, as though his reflection stepped right out of the mirror to converse with him. And that word, monster, along with many similar epithets, tastes so bitterly familiar upon his own tongue. And yet, what blasphemy it is to even think of those names placed upon this boy, dewy-eyed and forlorn. The prince thinks of his Leo, masterful lord of this kingdom, and that man's unshakable, inextinguishable belief in the bull of Minos humanity. I was treated like a monster too, Oscar, but I am not one, and neither are you. I knew my father, but that spared me not from tragedy. In fact, much of what I went through was because of him. Our circumstances may have been different, but I feel your pain. Were you not one of my kind, you would still have my serious condolences. But knowing that you and I, it pains me twofold. I am sorry that cannot be your father, but are we not kin regardless? I know these are mere words, and the words alone oft have little value. I have never met another Minotaur before, and I cannot let this opportunity pass. I said before it'd be a privilege to have you as our guest, and now more than ever I must say it again. Would you be willing to sit at our table and share a meal? May I give you a roof and a bed and introduce you to all the fine people we have with us tonight? May I get to know you? May I do whatever I can to make up for what you have been through? Shelter, a warm place to rest his head, food and company shared in abundance. All the things necessary for a life to thrive. All the things he has gone without for so long. Oscar cannot keep the thrashing of his ears and tail in check. The calf within his chest cavorts in joy at the very idea. And that it would be shared with this man who looks so much like him. Not his father, but kin regardless. 'Tis far better than any dream he has ever had of this night, of this encounter. Rubbing and pinching the charm on his ear to keep the pecking hummingbirds at bay. That blessed charm which allowed all this to come to pass. Oscar opens his mouth to bellow out an eager yes. And the word catches in his throat. His so anticipated meeting with this other Minotaur is not his only purpose for being here. Mr. Asterion, sir, that sounds better than anything. But first, I've got to tell you something. My friend, the one who brought me here, he's a mythical too, and his grandpa used to work here. So I don't know the details, but his gramps left something here and he's looking for it. It's very important for him, like you wouldn't believe. How long did the prince think and wonder and fear as he sat in the cold room's darkness? Those old employees, those he could have called his friends, cast from the home they'd made, from what Clement's madness had made once more into his prison. And now, this night has brought to him not only this other Minotaur, but an echo from that dim and distant past as well. Your friends are related to someone who worked here? Yes. What was his name? Can you tell me? I don't know the whole story. But his gramps went by the name of P. Just a letter. That was a long time ago. Before World War II, I reckon. P's grandson? Asterion's fingers curse as he's holding his lyre. He sees again the cold room, and feels every day, month and year since 1942 chewing at his back. There is a delay as he commands his lungs to draw a breath, hitched, knotted, almost a wheeze, while the faces of 100 employees flash through his galloping mind. He almost goes cold. That old regalia of Lord Hades' guard, his fresh title as co-owner of the hotel, the kiss sweet burning and wild which still lingers on his lips. It all pulls him back to wakefulness. Oh, my little darling, you were made strong to bear the yoke. His grandson. You know him? Of course, a green-feathered peacock from Brazil. He started working security here back during the war. He left his passport. Damn, I wasn't expecting you to. Sorry, but just how old are you? Far older than I look. By the 12, I must speak with him at once. The prince turns and gestures for the boy to follow him inside. As they walk, their sweet-sounding hooves, despite the newfound urgency, ring out a joyous fanfare to herald their arrival. Together, the pair of darlings make their way into the hotel. And together, they step right in the middle of what had been occurring while they met under the starlight. The old stories, good master, have a habit of repeating themselves. Forever and ever, fractals growing inwards, accumulating deformities over the centuries. Never one deleterious enough to put an end to their stagnancy. You, who glimpse through the disguise, did you anticipate the tragedy brewing inside your home? The chariot of Helios had sunk below the horizon when he came. Running without so much as disturbing the grains of sand, he crossed threshold upon threshold. The sky shifted. All the constellations men had invented gave way to the mockery of the labyrinth firmament with all its haphazard stars. All the life-giving green crafted and gifted by Persephone of the underworld, gone. All that remained was the desolate evil of the realm crafted by the gods. Unfazed he ran, hurtled past the planes and bends of the road, crept inside through a door's keyhole, into the home of the immortal steer of Poseidon. He found there a celebration, rich in wine and food and every beverage known to mankind. Amidst the men and fiends he camouflaged himself, indistinguishable at a glance. Save for by you, good lord. You found him among the crowd, holding a cup of darkest coffee in shaky hand. Driver of cattle, thief at the gates, leader of dreams and crafty of counsel. Hermes. A word is warranted, wouldn't you say? For true I could Olympian to grace and bless your celebration with his presence, his approval, would be a most remarkable situation. And so you step forward, dodging through the tangle of bustling bodies. But for a mere fraction of a second the man is out of your sight as a guest crosses your path, and when you look again, he's gone. Jean? You call out, but no answer comes. He's not behind the counter, nor around the restrooms, and no one in the vicinity remembers seeing where he went. Could it be your mind playing tricks, good lord? Most certainly not. The fiend left behind a puddle of dark coffee where he'd been standing. As you crouch to examine it, you hear a thunderous rumbling. Oh, Leo. Robert, it's good to see you. Say, did you happen to see Jean around here?
I did, yes. He was here just a few minutes ago, in fact. If you're looking for him, I'm sorry to say that I didn't catch where he went. That aside, I must burden you with an important matter.
Oh, what is it?
A guest ran up to me a short while ago, an elderly woman to be precise. I talked with her a few times before. She's a rather difficult person who seems disturbed by a mental condition of some kind. She has given me many a verbal lashing, as she has taken an issue with my appearance. But tonight there was something very, very odd about her. When she ran up to me just now, she was crying because she saw a snake inside the hotel.
You mean like a garden snake or something? That is odd. There shouldn't be any animals in the hotel. Then again, Wolf got in just fine.
No, Leo. She described it to me as a snake man, slithering and skulking around the hallways. Does the hotel happen to have a guest fitting that description?
There is someone, but he's not a guest. This can't be good. Robert, look for Asterion. This person may try to hurt him, so please watch over him while I deal with this situation.
Will do, boss.
You head out, swift-footed, with shoulders head high as befits a lord. Meanwhile, Panoptis sneaks like the proverbial thief in the night into the hotel. The endless hallway, marble floor all the way to the death of the universe. The peacock had seen the empty reception and crowded lounge. His civility may have pushed him to introduce himself, for his visions already taught him the way. In his dreams, the grubby lizard had carried him all around the hotel, down corridors large and small, into and out of kitchens and bedrooms, through doorways and cabinets. And that temple underground as well. Just earlier in the day, he'd seen one of the lizards leaving the door open and exiting through this hallway. He knows his path already, down the endless stretch, marble floor all the way to the death of the universe. There's no stealth or secrecy in him, just the raw heart beating out of his chest as he counts the seconds before the door reveals itself. And that's when he catches a glimpse of the snake, as soon as they lay eyes on each other and all poison boils over. Something within the bird, an old tale of revenge built into his kind, drives bile up into his throat. Reminds him how easy and right it is to stomp a serpent's windpipe. And the serpent, meanwhile, is taken over by the instinctual fear of those terrifying birds, leaping and covering all light with their feathers, talons outstretched and stained by dried blood. The snake must hide, so he throws himself down a bifurcation. And while the peacock must hunt, there's enough sense in him to focus on his task. He goes the other way, to the door down into the bedrock, deep into the entrails of the hotel. It all happens in the time it takes for a life to be snuffed out. He recognises the old stone, anticipates the stench of rotted crystals, and dives into the darkness. He sees it, sees himself coming down the hallway, and there it is, his inheritance. What a simple thing. His fingers brush it, still sturdy even after many years in desert air. Sitting almost politely in this Stygian depth, happily replaced into its vase by the small reptile who had wanted to hoard it. The Panoptes could almost be grateful the little bandit returning it to its rightful place. He takes his inheritance and holds it close to his breast. Hello again, Grandpa. The endless hallway, marble floor all the way to the death of the universe. It's as good a place as any to begin your search. Your gaze sweeps left to right, right to left, as you let the rhythm of your footsteps carry you. Confusion draws your brow downward into a concerned frown. Nikos said he was leaving. He'd gone through an entire confession about it. So why was he still hanging around? For a moment, the thought that he lied, that all his song and dance was just one more of the foreman's tricks, tickles the back of your brain, and then is discarded. It wouldn't make any sense. No matter how good of an actor he may be, you doubt he could make himself cry that earnestly, that convincingly. Has something happened with his overseer? Has their plan changed once again? Just what the hell is going on? Wandering round and round the labyrinth of your own mind, distracted if even briefly from your search, you don't notice the figure popping out from around a corner until it bumps right into you. Ah! As if your thoughts had summoned him from the ether, there he is. Dominikos of Crete, your Argos Panoptes. Hello! Nikos, what's going on? I thought you said you were leaving. It's been a change of plans. The overseer's ordered me to make a nuisance of myself by crashing a little celebration. I don't know what's going on in his mind. It might be blasphemy, but I'm starting to doubt it's anything good. He glances round the hall, tail-tip tapping against a tile floor with nervous anxiety, and Nikos meets your gaze once more. Where's Asterion? He was upstairs the last time I saw him. Why? The snake nods, then slithers in close to grab your shoulder. You can feel his tremor as he takes another look around and flicks his tongue out. Nikos drops his voice into a low murmur and looks you right in the eyes. You need to find him right now and get him outside the hotel, out of the parking lot. His Majesty should be safe there. I can't disobey a direct order from the overseer, but I can make sure that whatever mess they want me to make won't bring the prince any harm. What, are you still allowing them to boss you around? I don't want to. I really don't. But once I've caused enough trouble to satisfy... He cuts himself off. The snake's scales become pale. His gaze darts over your shoulder. His eyes grow wide with fear. When you turn to see what's caught his attention, you find the source of that fright. A peacock man stalking down the hallway towards the two of you. A guest? It must be. Although you don't remember checking in anyone of his description, or Asterion making any mention of doing so. I'm sorry, the lounge is actually the other direction. That's where everyone's gathering. Give me a moment to finish dealing with some business. I'll be happy to escort you there. The peacock's eyes remain locked onto the trembling snake, who cowers behind you. He pays you no attention. It's you. Still alive, too, even after all these years. You only hear a weak dribbling hiss in response to that. This is all your fault. You pushed him over the edge. Excuse me, but who are you? Who do you think? I'm the same as you. Just some motherfucker stuck in the middle of all this bullshit. I saw it all. Everything happened decades ago. That snake is responsible for the bastard got off the rails and kicking everyone out. The previous owner, a grieving, untreated schizophrenia, plopped right in the middle of a whole world of magic, and you pushed him over the edge. Abandoned by his family, got half his fingers frozen off in the winter. Then he was picked up by his shell-shocked, abusive brother, only to lose the one person he had left. And then you gave him ideas. I read your lips. You told him the Minotaur was to blame for his brother's death. You picked up that fragile piece of shit and you broke him for good. That's why everyone was kicked out. What the fuck is wrong with you? Why did you do it, huh? It wasn't me. No, I see right through you. The same Minotaur, the same snake, the same goddamn lies. You took everything from us. Our home, my family, our future. All because of you. And now you're here to do it all over again, aren't you? Aren't you? The peacock takes another step closer, approaching, ready to bring whatever vengeance brews within his mind down upon the snake. And with a desperate shriek of fright, Nikos turns tail and flees. Oh, no, you don't. Get back here, you little shit. He moves to give chase, attempting to dart around you as you do your best to stop him in his tracks. You draw in a breath. The faintest hint of some floral miasma clinging to the bird's feathers teases your senses. Wait just a minute. Get the fuck out of my way. He wrenches his arm free from your grip and then proceeds to follow the retreating snake's path out towards the reception. What can you do but follow, good master? You surely can't allow these interlopers to ruin the festivities. Nikos slithers around the desk, eyes searching with wild desperation for a place to hide from his pursuer. Regret for even attempting this infiltration surely burns like bile within his throat. Then he turns, and once more slams face first into something, or rather someone. They stare at one another for a breathless moment. The man looks the intruder up and down, brow furrowed and lips curved at the corners, while the snake's eyes grow wide. So then, Clodhopping Enemeus, where's the profit from your cleverness? Wait, please. Perhaps it is bestial instinct, or merely an inkling of the danger which lurks in those dark eyes, but either way the snake is shaken to his core. He whirls around quick as a whip, but the man is faster. A hand closes around the snake's shoulder, gripping like a vice, then wrenches him round to shove him to the tile floor. Someone come quick, I found the snake. He's out here, hurry. The shouting draws pounding footsteps and murmuring voices. Those in the lounge filter out into the reception to witness the unfolding scene. A booted foot presses against the snake's chest, pinning him in place. He struggles, and at last looks up to plead whatever mercy might be offered to a wretch such as he. The words die upon Nikos' lips when he sees the heavy stone in the man's hand. This villainous thing's a dishonest accuser, and malignant in every way. Come on, men, let us give this miserable creature what he deserves. The victor holds his weapon high, ready to bring it crashing down and put an end to the defeated foe. The intruder cowers, lifting his arms in a vain attempt to ward off the fatal blow. At last the watching crowd's confusion bursts into cries and yells. Such is the tableau upon which you and the peacock intrude when at last you reach your destination. Nikos? John? The snake turns his head towards you. You, the master whose face he glimpsed as he donned the pelt and embraced the role of Argos, his audience and companion in this wretched affair. His eyes remain on you, while his mind reels back to the sweet memories of his mother and father, and the old stories his grandfather told him about the honoured Argoi. And then all of that is swallowed down, along with all that he has done, his ruinous part in this play, the grief he has wrought, and the weight of all the snakes who have come before him. All the tales of mortals who meddled in affairs alongside the gods. What a fool he was to think his own story would not end in a tragedy much like theirs. And so, at last, a sense of hazy-eyed peace settles upon his face. The snake's hands tremble as he resigns himself to his wretched fate. Addio, there you are. Look, I caught this little rascal who's been giving you so much trouble. No need to thank me, I'm happy to help. And what treatment should he get, do you think, for his provocations? Should it not be the most extreme penalty? Come, let's take care of him once and for all. You draw a breath. Your senses are overtaken by a tyrannical, overwhelming smell of flowers. The scent of withering lilies, or perhaps roses, as they live well past their prime, of decay just before it turns to rot. You blow all that stale, cloying stench out of your lungs. This farce has gone on for long enough. Pressure builds in your chest. Fury beyond humanity boils up within you. Your every action is filled with the might of a king. A single step forward, hand raised to reach out towards the assailant and his victim, is enough to draw Jean's attention back to you. The man's mouth hangs open, as though he's muttering a name under his breath. Just you drowned all sound in the hotel with your command. Release my subject now! Dutiful and ever faithful to its lord and master, the labyrinth brings your will to pass. The snake disappears from beneath the man's foot. Then a thud and a shriek is heard from amongst the riveted crowd. Jean's eyes fill with surprise, disappointment, betrayal. Then they drift towards a point just over your shoulder, and the smell of decaying flowers becomes like an oil sticking to your throat. The man's blood-curdling gaze is aimed at the peacock. A shudder rocks through him. And when he speaks, it's in a different voice than one you've heard so far, light and airy, yet sharp as a blade against the listener's throat. It's you, still alive, too, even after all these years. Jean lifts his free hand towards the target of his ire, clenching it to a white-knuckled fist around the empty air. Every god-forsaken shard of chaos and humanity in the peacock's soul boils. His throat closes in a pained wheeze, as though that hand had closed around it in the vice-tight grip. His legs buckle underneath him, but he does not, cannot collapse. All of his eyes are aimed at the looming assailant. The hunter takes a step forward to his new, far better prey. Another. Unlike Nikos, however, the peacock does not make peace with his fate. Even as his strength fails, he fights off the approaching presence. His shoes scrabble against the tile, his own reaching hands claw at his throat. With every movement, the stench which hangs in the air becomes more terrifying. Lilacs or roses, but underneath is the cold and rigid source of it, like the kind of sweetness that attracts flies, like the smell of a corpse drained of blood, like the wrongness left behind by an incomplete cremation. The front door opens, and yet another pair intrudes upon the tragedy, old and played out, cycling and spiralling around and around itself, being performed in the reception.
What's going on in here? Pedro!
You look to the Minotaurs. The sight of another bovine-shaped man standing beside your darling charge only piles more madness upon the pandemonium which surrounds you. However, the younger bull's cry of horror spurs you to action. Hermes, just what do you think you're doing? The words are like a blow to the man, the god. He freezes in place, still as a marble statue. Only a slight cocking of his head indicates he's listening to you. Yeah, that's right. I know who you are. A delivery man? Really? Couldn't you put in a little more effort? His brow furrows. Amused? Insulted? You may be the god of travellers, tricksters, and whatever the fuck you're doing right now, but you're still a guest in our home, and you will act like it. You come in here, we take you and let you join our celebration. Then you try to murder Argos, and you dare raise a hand against another guest. His expression shifts into petulance. His unfocused eyes narrow to rage-filled slits. What are you talking about? Argos is there. He's right there. A pointing finger stabs in the peacock's direction, a knife seeking to hilt itself in the bird's beating heart. He's the one keeping Io in captivity, and I'm here to. I need to. Just what the fuck are you talking about? Look at him. The eyes, they're right there. And Io, she is right there. 2 of them. With a stone in his hand, the raving god gestures in wild, frenzied motions towards Asterion and the newcomer. He's keeping them here against their will. He's their jailer. I'm their liberator. You're delirious. Another verbal slap across Hermes' pallid face. He reels and you move to put yourself between him and the peacock. Your fist lands squarely on the man's jaw. Something in the air snaps like a severed cord, and a strangled groan leaks from both the assailant and his intended victim. Where am I? He peers around with still clouded eyes, looking for all the world like a lost child. His lips tremble. The stone falls from his slackened fingers. You approach the confused god, take a careful, gentle hold of his shoulders. With kneading hands and soothing words, you lead Hermes back to himself. We're in the hotel. It's our grand opening, and you just tried to murder Argos and that guy over there. He blinks at awakening from a dream. Just what were you hoping to accomplish with all of this? I thought I was helping. I thought that knowing you and Asterion that you'd want to get rid of the snake. But then I saw him, the peacock, and I blacked out. What was I doing just now? You're about to kill him. You had a rock in your hand and you looked like you wanted to bash his brains in with it. No, The fog returns. Hermes collapses against you, shuddering and shaking and clutching your biceps, all the while muttering to himself, switching at times to some language you can't understand. No. What was I thinking? Oh, Father, I'm so sorry. I never meant to. Last silence. His breathing steadies as he slips into mirthful unconsciousness. The curtain falls and the tragedy comes to its bitter conclusion. Take a deep breath, good master. Gather yourself. Salvage what you can from the messes that have been made of your celebration. You look around and spot a hint of blue scales and white feathers in the milling audience. The dragon and griffin slip through the crowd, having to excuse themselves as they force their way through. Luke, Kota, get this man to the infirmary. Luke, stay with him while Kota returns to the lounge. We can't leave the guests unattended for too long. At once, Leo. Working together, the pair heft the comatose god off of you. And then they carry him away, the gathered throng parting around their tiny procession. That's one less thing for you to worry about, but far from enough to turn this night around. Just as you start thinking up a plan, however, your business partner rises to the occasion in your stead. He signals for all the employees nearby to approach, and doles out their tasks with the air of a well-seasoned general directing his troops.
Honoro, Zapito, Gruggy, please listen very carefully. We have just witnessed a very complicated situation, and sometimes people can become very nervous after such an event. I want you to serve drinks and food. No alcohol for the next 15 minutes, however. If anyone feels ill, make sure they take a seat as soon as possible. Understood? The kobolds nod, chirp, and trot off to accomplish their mission. Kenvish, I'll leave you to check the cellar. On the very last shelf we keep a few dozen bottles of the Red Label. They are among our best. I planned on keeping them for later in the night, but please serve them in about 15 minutes. That should lift everyone's spirits. First, though, I want you to brew and serve a fresh pot of coffee. Make sure the peacock gets a mug as soon as possible. The snake as well. Yes, I know. Just the wines you're talking about. That's for coffee. That should be done in no time flat. Robert, please check if any other guests were injured, and then check the rest of the floor for any out of place. Prefer not to have any more surprises tonight. Very well, I'll leave no stone unturned. Wolf, be a good boy and guard the entrance to the hotel in case anything else happens. Wolf wags his tail, seemingly understanding the command, and heads towards the entrance. While the others set about their assignments, you begin going around to calm down the guests. Some are close to panicking, but it's nothing some creative manoeuvring cannot pacify. You feel their questions offer them reassurances, along with a light-hearted joke and comforting touch or smile where appropriate. Once it's ensured the rest of the team have their orders, Asterion moves to join in on your efforts.
And so, as a single unit, you and your partner and your staff avert yet another crisis. But even when the mood has been lifted back to something approaching merry, there still remains more work to do. You and your darling exchange glances and come together to contemplate your next steps. Are you holding up?
Well enough. And you, Leo?
Pretty much the same. I'm worried about that peacock. The other, his friend, called him Pedro, right?
Well, that is correct. Pedro and Oscar. Oscar and I had a brief conversation outside before this unpleasantness. I too wish to make sure they're all right.
In that case, we'll go check on them together so I can introduce myself. We should probably check on Argos as well. Troublesome as he is, even he doesn't deserve what Hermes nearly did to him. The Minotaur's expression shifted at the mention of the snake.
May I accompany you, Leo? I wish to ensure his well-being as well.
Recall Nikos' plea for confidentiality and give the Minotaur a rueful shake of your head. Let me deal with him for right now, at least until after everything's calmed down.
Very well. What you plan on doing first?
Well, Argos was almost killed. I think we should check on him. At least Pedro has Oscar with him. I'll go talk with Argos. In the meantime, you see how Pedro and Oscar are doing. I'll come over to join you shortly. You find the snake coiled up in an out-of-the-way corner of the room with his coffee, far away from the other guests, who even now give him a wide berth. At your approach, he drops his gaze to the floor and fidgets his fingers against one another. Hey, Leo. I want to thank you for earlier and say I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. You hold up a hand, cutting off his apologies, and set it upon his shoulder, warm and firm, comforting and reassuring. Despite himself, the very tip of Nikos' tongue pokes from between his lips in response. You did try to warn me about what Lord Hermes, your overseer, I'm guessing, was planning. The snake gulps, hesitates, and finally nods to confirm your suspicions. If we hadn't been interrupted, we probably really could have gotten our stay on outside and worked together to keep the mess to a minimum, and I am grateful to you for that. That's what happened before Hermes started attacking Pedro. You smile and give his thin, trembling shoulder a gentle squeeze. Like I was about to let that tricky bastard hurt my most loyal servant. Nikos lets out the sob that's been building within his chest throughout your speech and surges forward to wrap you up in a tight, clinging hug. While he buries his face in your shirt, you pat his back and murmur soothing words to him. Thank you. Thank you so much, Leo. Your kindness, it's far more than I deserve. The snake draws back and offers you a snot-nosed, watery-eyed, but genuine smile of his own. I'll make it up for you, I swear. He gives you one last squeeze, with both his arms and supple coils of his tail. Then the embrace comes to an end. I'll tell you everything. You and Asterion both, and... He swallows down his fear, then last plunges ahead with his blasphemy. And fuck whatever Lord Hermes thinks about it. You give him a nod of approval and clap him on the back. That's the spirit. Until then, you're welcome to stay here, for as long as you'd like. We can even get a proper room set up for you, so you won't have to go back out to the valley. Really? You'd allow me to stay? Well, of course. The hotel is meant to be a place of rest for anyone in need. We don't turn away anyone. It's like the verse goes, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Amen. I knew it. So you really are the Dominikos who's been texting with Asterion. A man from Greece who wants to give him joy and happiness at the behest of a previous very grateful guest. He slumps down defeated. Alright, you got me, eh? Wish we could have been friends. I wanted to test the waters with him. As me, not Argos. but evangelist, really? Well, I have been telling you about my devotion to the gods all this time, right? I just left out exactly which god.
You're going to have to tell me how all that works, considering.
Later, though. For now, go get yourself a snack and some wine. Kenfish should be around you somewhere. If you're really hungry, just tell him I sent you and ask him to whip something up real quick. Thank you, it's really appreciated, but I don't really drink. Some more coffee then? Oh, that sounds very good. Thank you, Leo. You're welcome, Nikos. Asteria and I will talk to you later. All right. With that and one last pat between the shoulder blades, you send the snake off into the crowd. Your apparent rapport with him eases the tension the other guests faces. When he moves to join them, you offer Nikos a few shy greetings and tentative pleasantries. Warm pulses in your chest, you leave him be for the moment in favour of seeking out your dear partner. You make your way over to where Asterion is chatting with Pedro and Oscar. The Minotaur, the other one, sits beside the shocked and responsive peacock, rubbing his back as if the older man had choked on something. Hey there, Oscar, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm Leo, one of the hotel's co-owners. My partner here told me the two of you had talked before this whole mess. Is that right?
Oh, yes, Mr. Asterion and me talked about Minotaur stuff.
I can imagine. Or I gather while talking with the other mythicals, I understood the Minotaurs are very rare. Asterion, you'd never met another one, right?
Oh, I'd never even heard of there being another one.
Well, I'm sorry this special reunion ended up like this. I wish we would have given you and your friend a warmer welcome, Oscar. Something deep within the peacock clicks. Looks up to you with bloodshot, tear-streaked eyes. Tired and despondent as he is, a breath of life fills him. Thank you. There's no need to thank me. Again, I'm the one who should apologise for not giving you a proper welcome. No, I mean, thank you for saving my life. My name's Pedro, and I... He picks up a feather, more scuffed than the ones of his tail, but still as vibrant, from where it rests beside him and gazes into its unblinking eye.
Pedro?
He doesn't respond. All his attention remains locked upon the feather in his hand.
So, Mr. Leo, he's not doing well right now, but I have to tell you something. The reason we're looking at this place is because my buddy's grandpa used to work here a long time ago. He left something behind that's supposed to be Pedro's inheritance. I know this ain't a good moment, but...
I got it. This is it.
What do you mean? What is it?
It's this feather right here. It was my grandpa's, but it's mine now, and... I can see everything that happened to you when my gramps was around. Even when the old owner, the Frenchman, went mad and kicked everyone out. I can't hear what happened all I have is sight. I can see it was that snake's fault. The old owner, he wasn't right in the head. Pretty sure he had some kind of disorder. When his brother died, it sent him out of control. What sealed the deal was the snake messing with him. He went down a spiral staircase and outside to a desert. My grandpa was escorting him and the snake slithered up to meet them. He talked, and after that all hell broke loose.
So that's what you were talking about earlier?
Pedro either doesn't hear you or chooses to ignore that. He turns towards his companion. With light, a weak, flickering, but warm ember, returning to his dull gaze. Oscar, where's Feather? Dad and Grandma were able to see what happened. And no, Grandpa wasn't crazy. God, this is it. We'll be able to close this chapter of our lives. Hell, maybe Dad and I will be able to get along. You stare down the feather clutched like a lifeline in the peacock's grasp. So innocent and unassuming. But the experience of your tenure as master of the hotel should have taught you well how deceiving appearances can be. You conceal that from a feather alone. Yeah, it's something my people can do. He looks up to you, then to Asterion. Have you ever heard the story of Argos Panoptes? He was a giant with as many eyes as there are stars in the sky. A goddess, Hera, tasked him with guarding a woman being turned into a heifer. Her name was Io. She was one of Zeus' lovers. He had turned her into that to hide her from his wife, but it didn't work. So Zeus sent his son, Hermes, to kill Argos and save Io. My people were born from his spilled blood by the blessing of Hera. I reckon Hermes was trying to finish the job tonight.
If I may interject for a moment. Pedro, yes. I knew your grandfather. I assume you could see that from the feather.
You're much older than you look, Mr. Asterion.
I don't look a day over 30, though.
Not at all.
Compliments aside, when Oscar told me you were looking for your inheritance, I thought you were looking for your relative's money. I understand the feather must hold priceless sentimental value, but I'm surprised that's all you wanted.
Money?
Yes, everyone was removed or left in such a hurry. Most, if not all, left their savings here. You had a sizable amount saved in, well, diamonds. Also, there's the interest on top of it. I believe the hotel owes you a very hefty sum, and that is without taking into account any compensation for what happened. So you see, I was a bit puzzled just how...
I want the money too.
Oh, marvellous. If you're staying here for the night, and you'll be an honour to host an old employee's family, we could discuss this matter tomorrow.
The latch comes undone, unlocking all the heaving and sobbing suppressed within the peacock's shuddering throat. Pedro turns in his seat and wraps his arms tight around Oscar. The young bull lets out a brief moo of surprise at the sudden surge of emotion from his companion. He pats the older man's back, shifting in the tight clinging embrace. With a snort, he looks up to you and Asterion. Red embarrassment burns inside his ears and on the tip of his snout.
Well, he's had a long day. Could you guys give us a minute?
Of course, as soon as possible we'll get you 2 keys for your rooms.
Oh, sounds good, thanks.
As you and your Minotaur move away together, you bump Asterion's shoulder with your own. He gives you a tender smile in return, then 2 of you slip out of the lounge. There's yet one more person you need to check on. You and Asterion head towards the very same infirmary to which you'd taken him after your first encounter in the cold room. The brightness of the lounge gives way to half-lit hallways, stretching shadows and the increasingly distant sound of the party. As the silence grows, the air around you becomes velvety and intimate. The distance between you and your darling narrows. Your forearm brushes his. Then the backs of your hands touch and almost turn to entwine your fingers together. Exchange a glance, a smile, and lay your palm upon his back for the final seconds before reaching the infirmary's door. The 2 of you stop, face each other and take a step closer. You tidy Asterion's dress shirt and adjust his chlamys, then rub his cheeks to smooth the fur sticking out. I wasn't expecting our night to end like this. My plan was to give you a celebration to remember, with everyone seeing us together on the same level.
It is all right. When hardship comes, the leaders must stand to face it.
And how are you feeling? Is everything all right? Your darling lifts his gaze to the ceiling, so seeking guidance in the unseen consolations far above. He ponders every word.
I feel odd. On some level I understand I should be afraid and nervous, but I cannot find much space in my mind now for uncertainty. We must resolve this situation.
He lets out a soft huff.
And I feel as though all those emotions will only hit me after we are past the worst of it.
He licks his lips, opens his mouth, and leaves it there hanging, until an impulse pushes him to say it.
If this man truly is Hermes, then. Remember the transcripts you gave me? I could ascertain that, at the very least, Lord Hades was authentic. If we assume the others are legitimate as well, then, thousands of years ago, Hermes, the son of Maia, was favourable to my cause. Perhaps that sentiment persists to this day. I know not what shall come, however. That is only a guess. But I know you and I are together in this. This time it's his turn to tidy your clothes. A beautiful man is beautiful to see, for a good man will at once also beautiful be. And you, my lord, are the finest in this entire realm, perhaps even the wider world. You brush a finger under his chin. He giggles and looks away. When his gaze returns, he's an inch closer. Still call me lord, even after what happened today? I can have my fun however I please, can I not? Especially after all that has occurred.
Before you can respond with another witty comeback, however, you hear some movement from inside the infirmary. Luke opens the door and pokes his head out.
I almost thought you weren't coming.
We're coordinating. Has he woken up?
Yeah, just now. Then wait a second, we're asking for a cup of Joe, too.
Indeed, the smell of fresh brewed coffee lingers in the air as you and Asteron enter the room. It's almost invigorating, given the circumstances. The sight you're presented with, however, is anything but. You find Hermes sitting up on the bed, his gaze aimed at the wall across from him. His face is slashed by a dozen new wrinkles. Suddenly he seems years older. He's immobile, save for his hands holding the coffee mug. They're almost convulsing, spilling the piping hot liquid onto his arms and clothes. You and your darling exchange a glance who should speak first, but Hermes takes the opportunity himself. I am mortified. He makes an attempt at sipping his coffee. All he accomplishes is spilling more of it on the sheets. Asterion watches the cup, barely hiding his disconcertment. The god's hands shake in a perfect rhythm, like a metronome. He doesn't even flinch as the piping hot darkness drips down to his skin. In my father's name, I owe you an apology and an explanation. First, the former. I committed a grave misdeed by abusing your hospitality, and I deeply regret it. I am a son of Zeus, and so should have known far better. But once a thing has already been done, only then does the fool see it. And to make it perfectly clear, I was the only one present who did wrong tonight. I hold no grudge over what happened. A laugh trickles from his throat in a steady, even stream. You have some bite in you, Leo. Yeah, a leader ought to when it comes to protecting the people they're responsible for. Not only that, you saw through my disguise. The god makes a show of pouting at you for ruining his cunning scheme. Well, I'm sorry to say, Mr. Hermes, it was quite on the nose. That you introduced yourself as a delivery man did much to clue me in. Such a simple and obvious statement, yet it cuts the god right to the heart. Just a moment his face grows 10 years older. I must be losing my touch. Still, I'm pleasantly surprised you could connect the dots. That cleverness is the kind of quality I deeply wished for you to have. He breathes in and then out, perfectly even and measured, like the mechanical motion of a bellows. Now for the explanation. As Hermes speaks, his words seem to stumble all over themselves. My father's name I wanted to. There is something I have to discuss with you two. I went about it in the worst way possible. I can't even recall what I was thinking, how I justified it, or why I ever thought this was the best way of going about it. I tried to help. Didn't even plan on it at first. Better judgment told me to keep quiet and watch from afar. But then I got all these ideas. It just made sense, you know. It felt right. I'm afraid I don't know. Neither do I understand just what felt right. I mean this. He raises his arms and gestures to the walls, the furniture to Luke, spilling the remainder of his coffee all over the bedsheets. This... What is the word? He cannot recall it, not in English nor in any language at all. As the realization of his predicament sets in, the god's face contorts into sorrowful horror. The hotel? A spark in the darkness. Illumination. The fog recedes and the lines on his face grow a touch more shallow. Yes, that... I liked it. I always liked the idea, which is why I kept quiet about it, never told any of the others. Only I could come here, you see. Other masters, they were tricky. Had no way of knowing if the screeching crow, that cursed Bratathena, still had claws in them. Couldn't run any risks. They could snitch and all come crumbling down. So I kept my distance, doing the least I had to, and just let you, Asterion, do your thing. Then came Clement, and you know how that went. The old man, he was destroyed over it. For a few centuries now, he's been trying to make amends and tie up loose ends, so that mess shook up and ate away at him. There was nothing we could do. We had to wait for Clement to die, and when he did, the deed reverted to the old man. So now, you see what I'm getting at? The old man wanted a definitive solution for Asterion's situation, so he told me he was going to hand the deed over to someone decent. But then You need to understand, he's senile. His mind is no longer there, and he's deteriorating faster every decade. I tried to reason with him, but he wouldn't listen. He was in a hurry. I don't know what he was thinking. Half the time he didn't even know where he was. But he picked you, because he saw something good. The god's gaze, its sharpness dulled, moves over to you. He asked me to keep an eye on you. And maybe in 10 or 20 years I could come over and talk, because this time we could be sure you weren't a lackey for the brat. But the old man is no longer. He's getting worse, so much worse. And you saw what I was like tonight. I've managed to avoid it. But now it's getting to me and it's coming fast. So I had to expedite things. I sent you people I thought were decent, and I told the Argos. He looks down to his hand, the very same one that gripped the stone which nearly ended the snake's life. Oh, Father, what was I thinking? How could I? The metronome shaking of his hands travels up his arms, then takes over the rest of his body. Before the god can lose himself once more, however, the Minotaur's sweet-sounding voice calls him back.
Setting that aside for the moment.
When the god's gaze returns to him, your darling begins to fidget. He shifts his hooves on the tiled floor and pinches at the fur and flesh of his arms. Your hand upon the Minotaur's step-wide back, however, calms and centres him.
Lord Hermes, you keep referring to the old man who gave the hotel's deed to Leo. We are under the impression that was Clement. You delivered that letter from him, after all, in which he spoke about his regret.
You wince, the shard of ice slides down your nape. Actually, Asterion about that. When I met with Argos back on Wednesday, when he delivered the transcript, he told me that Clement's been dead for months now. Which, in hindsight, tracks with what Hermes just said. You can feel the god's gaze upon you like a feather-like touch. He is perked up at your words, listening and considering. A tiny frown pulls the corner of his mouth downward. Petulance? Disgruntlement with a rebellious foreman? Another of his rhythmic shudders forces other shifts to his expression. Remorse? Terror? So that letter. It's not from Clement.
Oh, I see.
Tension gathers, then relaxes under your fingertips. I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you earlier. With how hectic this week has been, all the preparations for the night, I never found the chance. He looks down to you, and the gentle warmth of his eyes melts that shard of ice lingering from his shoulders.
You want to be sorry, Leo. I can only assume you're aware of Argos' trickery at that time, as I was of the veracity of the transcripts. So then, Lord Hermes, sir, who is it from? Another of the Olympians, I suppose. Not Lord Hades. I would have recognized the handwriting.
Indeed. Worry about him, are you? Another weak, burbling, uniform in length and tone peal of laughter. Don't be. Uncle Hades and I have kept in touch. He was one of my more amiable employees too, after all. And he's been doing as well as can be expected.
Oh, good. That's good.
As for the old man, well, as you probably guessed, he was one of those amongst the 12 who were in your favour. Then why do you even say it came from Clement? Why did you lie? I don't know. He seeks within himself and finds nothing. Where is he? The bellows pump faster and faster, working in vain to stave off the thickening fog. Its face contorts, in confusion, shame, bitter remorse, frightful and unfamiliar to one such as he. Oh, Father, what have I done? One last full-body shiver sends the mug tumbling from his slackened grip. It bounces slightly and settles upon the coffee-soaked sheets, which are still rumpled in the shape of a suddenly absent form. Like a light blinking out, Hermes is gone. Rocky as the start may have been, by the night's end all agreed the celebration was unforgettable. The wine rekindled the guests' good spirits. The food kept everyone together. With only a brief delay from schedule, you and your darling charge rose to take the stage and announce the hotel's grand reopening. Dear guests, I must thank you for honouring my partner and I with your company tonight. Seeing our home so full of life and joy, this is what we've been striving towards. It's been a long and difficult journey. Not too long ago, this hotel was in a tragic state. Asterion, our employees and I, together we went through great lengths to turn it into the inviting place it's become. But if anyone deserves a special mention here, it is Asterion. He's the one who brought us together around our hotel's mission. And I must say, it is an honour to share ownership of this establishment with him. Now, Asterion, would you grace us with your speech? He stepped forward into the limelight, a smile upon his face. After only a few brief seconds of fumbling and fidgeting, his sweet-sounding voice rang out. To have around us company so fine, it's this which makes a home of our hotel. The people who find their way here, more often than not, bear such grievous weight. Loss, sorrow, or perhaps emotions even darker. I know it is not much, but I hope that, even if for only a single night, we have managed to give you more than shelter, that you have found here a place of belonging. So thank you for giving me a purpose, and thank you for sharing your lives with us. I hope you enjoy your stay with us at... A glance your way, let it like the wings of hummingbirds fluttering. Must I really say it? Yes, buddy, it is absolutely imperative. As you wish. In that case, welcome to Minotaur Hotel. Evening. You gather back all that dazzling dawn has put asunder. You gather the man, gather the dear, gather the beloved to his lover. One by one the guests return to their quarters. First the families and their sleepy children, then couples holding hands, and hours later the fine single people you have taken in. After all of them are gone, the staff still remains, nursing the dregs and feasting upon the bountiful leftovers. Meanwhile, you and Asterion, arms touching, pour the night's last string of wine onto the sitting embers of the hearth. For the few gods whose favour has allowed this night to happen, for the sweet friends who have joined your cause, for the warmth of your partner's eyes, and for this night to remain forevermore in fondly held memory. Later, the two of you make your way back to your apartment. Asterion hums a much-cherished song. Your hands brush together, and you cast doting glances at one another out of the corners of your eyes. What a night, huh? I haven't had one this intense in centuries. Are you holding up? I am holding up. A single deep breath. Now that we're winding down, I feel my tongue going dry, and each sound is becoming far too loud. And the more I breathe, the more I feel like I'm drowning. Right now, I'd like nothing more than to sit down in silence and order my thoughts. Well, at 12, I struggled to believe you said all those things to Hermes. I had entire centuries where fewer things happening than this single night had. And knowing that Hermes himself is involved would give me great and terrible fear, were it not for the conversation we had with him.
All things considered, I could be feeling much worse.
What do you mean?
I could be panicking right now. I am not. All I feel is exhaustion.
Huh. Remember a few weeks ago when you were almost panicking for the concert you held in the lounge? Look how much you've changed since then. You're taking all of this very well.
Well, it's not too difficult if I have you by my side.
Oh?
I've known thousands of fine men and women over the centuries. If I ever had to face challenges this tall, I would wish to have you by my side.
You flatterer.
That is true, though.
Your drink-warm mind goes back to earlier in the day. Has it truly been only a handful of hours? Back to his embrace, to his scent in your nose and lungs, to his fur under your palms and his lips upon your own. And you can tell by the flushing of his face and ears that your Minotaur, your darling Asterion, is thinking similar thoughts.
You're very special, to the hotel and to me.
His heated cheek brushes against your own as he leans down. And then at last you taste the sweetness of him once more. A kiss, quicker than before, but no less thrilling for it. Which reminds me, we should probably have a talk about what happened when we get back to our apartment. A single, tenser breath.
Oh, we should. But seeing how intense things have been, would it be acceptable if we left that for tomorrow?
Yes, that's very reasonable and very acceptable.
But before we go to our separate quarters, would it be alright if we could just sit together on the couch for a while? I do want to wind down a bit, but I just do not want to be alone quite yet.
His large, strong, clumsy, gentle hand stays close around your own. When you reach up to cup his cheek, he rubs it against your palm while meeting your gaze with his starry eyes. Yeah, I could go for that. It's like a key fit into a lock, like a ship sliding into safe harbour, like the joints of two beams fitting together in perfect uniformity, creating a stable framework for the home you built together. You and Asterion settle onto the couch, lounging with his arm around your torso while he holds you like a teddy bear. You lean into the embrace, lying upon his warm, forgiving bulk. He leans into you as well, rubbing his chin on the top of your head while you set a gently supportive hand on his back. And when your fingers reach up to caress one of his flicking ears, your darling's throat rumbles with a moo of contentment. But mostly, there is stillness and silence. Your darling has earned it. You press in against him and allow him to gather himself after you both get cosy. That is how the two of you drift off to sleep. The even rhythm of every breath lulls you and your Minotaur into placid, restful slumber. And that is how you wake up when, at last, a new day dawns at Minotaur Hotel. There we go. Wow, that was a lot going on there. Great you got into Punch-Out Hermes. Not often you get to do that to a Greek god. As you can see at the top, this build I'm working on has chapter 19. So April, that'll be next month, there will be a full video of chapter 19. Quite well, I'm not sure because I don't remember how long it is. I have actually read through it, but it's been a while. So I might have to do a couple of sessions of recording. But there will be one video for that, which I think takes us up to the current end. I know the whole team is working hard on more stuff. A lot of it's been written, I believe. So there will be more Minotaur Hotel next month, and then we'll see when the new build comes out. I hope you're enjoying it. It's nice to get back there. Sometimes we take a long break, but it's always good to go back. And speaking of it being good to go back, next weekend we're back in Echo. It's been a bit too long. I've been doing some other stuff and I haven't had time in the weeks, unfortunately, to do extra videos. So that will be next weekend. I'm really looking forward to get back onto Flynn's route. That is going to be so much fun. Hopefully, during the week coming up, we'll have one day in By Your Hands, which will take us up to the current end of Brendan's route. Obviously more to come, but that's where it ends at the moment. And by the end of the month, I hope to start a new series. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, because I haven't actually talked to people making it. I want to check they're happy with me recording it, but it's going to be an interesting one to do. I'm looking forward to it if we do it. But that will happen. The Almac Chronicles will hopefully return soon. Again, I don't have a whole lot of time to actually record midweek videos, so we're doing slightly less than I'd like to. Hopefully eventually we'll get back to them. And the people who know about the new series first will be my patrons. I would say thank you to all of them for all their support. I really appreciate everything they do to help the channel. And also we have a Discord as well. If you become a patron, you can always pop over there. It's not always that busy, but we have fun. We share things, we chat. And I will be planning my D&D campaign for them soon. If you're watching, you're on the thing. Yeah, don't worry, next week I'll be working on the campaign, so we'll get that done soon. As always, I want to make a special mention to my top patrons: Omar, Rafu, Spiderling, Smuto, Tiger Cub, Amantrasu, Lovers Need Coffee, Addy Bear, Greylock, Lark Huskerton, Andy Peng, Aaron Fox, Bastian, Bieker, Brian Hall, Govers Visser, Dissonance, Exact, Grizz, Harvest Mouse Productions, Ida Corval, Evan King, Kartek, Matt Kenya, and Mario Cervantes. So special thanks to all of them. And I'll see you at some point in the week for By Your Hands, and definitely in Echo next weekend. But for now, thanks for watching. Goodbye.